Okay, so let's dive into this stack of material you've shared. We've got quite a mix here.
We do. News reports, live updates, some analysis from correspondents on the ground.
Right, and official statements, too, even descriptions of videos, photos. It's all centered on this, well, dramatic intensification between Iran and Israel recently.
Exactly. And think of this deep dive as us, sorting through all that information with you.
Yep.
Our mission here is really to pull out the key reported events, try to understand the motivations stated in these sources,
Look at the reported impact, definitely.
and examine the different perspectives laid out. We want to give you, the listener, a clear picture of what's being reported based directly on this material.
Right. And the central event, I mean, it really jumps out from everything here, doesn't it? This huge launch of ballistic missiles from Iran towards Israel.
Yeah, it's clearly the flashpoint, and the context given in the sources frames this very specifically. It's presented as direct retaliation for Israel's earlier overnight strikes, which, follows Iran's supreme leader reportedly vowing to inflict heavy blows. A very strong statement.
Very strong. So what did this retaliation actually look like on the ground, according to these reports?
Yeah.
They paint quite a picture.
They really do. We're seeing descriptions of large flashes, big explosions seen over Jerusalem.
And then specifically Tel Aviv, there's mention of black smoke rising over the skyline.
Yes, distinctly black smoke, plus reports of explosions and, well, huge plumes of smoke, actually, in Tel Aviv.
Wow.
And the material also mentions descriptions of videos apparently showing fresh strikes near Tehran.
Near Tehran.
Yeah, and even moments where strikes supposedly hit the Iranian capital itself. And there's one report of a massive fireball seen in Piranshar, Iran.
Just sounds incredibly dramatic. And then you have the other side, air raid sirens sounding across Israel.
Right, and Israel declaring a state of emergency.
And this detail, I thought this was interesting, reports of global air traffic just clearing out of Iranian airspace.
There's even a reference to a time-lapse video apparently showing that happening, sort of an eerie visual described there.
Yeah. And another piece of information reported, Iranian state TV supposedly aired a video claiming to show a nuclear facility strike.
That's what was reported, yes. A significant claim.
So this big missile launch from Iran, it didn't just happen in a vacuum, obviously. The sources give background on what prompted it.
Exactly. It's reported that the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, stated they had, assassinated the chief of the Revolutionary Guard, Hossein Salami.
A really senior figure.
Extremely senior,
Yeah.
along with other military personnel.
And then Iran's claim, reported in the sources, is that 6 scientists were also killed in that Israeli action.
That's the reported claim, yes. And the sources connect this back to a specific Israeli operation mentioned, reportedly called Operation Rising Lion.
Operation Rising Lion. Okay, so putting all these pieces together, the events, the reported background, what kind of picture does the analysis within these sources paint? What's the takeaway?
Well, what's striking is how consistently the analysis points to a conflict just, intensifying by the hour. It's really rapid.
Yet it notes this wave of missiles from Iran was much bigger, much more intense than earlier actions.
Significantly more intense, yeah. Compared to earlier in the day when reports mention about 100 drones being intercepted, this felt like a step change.
And the context provided suggests maybe this wasn't entirely unexpected. The Israeli army had reportedly warned Iran could cause real harm.
Right, and this missile attack is sort of framed as possibly the first major demonstration of that capability playing out.
Which, if you connect that to the broader strategic picture presented in the analysis,
Yeah.
it sounds like Israel took a huge gamble with its earlier actions.
That's certainly a perspective presented in the analysis, yes, a considerable gamble. And there are also indications that more attacks were perhaps being planned.
Right, because Netanyahu is quoted in the report saying Israel's attacks on Iran could go on for days.
And the analysis does seem to suggest that Israel's actions leading up to this had been planned for some time. This wasn't necessarily spontaneous.
Which brings us to objectives, right? What were the stated aims?
Yes, key point. Israel's reported aim, stated quite clearly in the sources, is to pursue strikes until Iran's ability to develop a nuclear weapon is completely neutralized.
That's a huge objective.
It is. But the sources also make it very clear that Tehran showed, with these missile launches, that it still has the capability to strike back. And strike back effectively.
A sort of push and pull of capabilities being reported there.
Definitely. Let's maybe pivot to some of the key statements and perspectives reported, starting with Netanyahu's address. That seemed quite significant.
It did. He reportedly made a point of saying Israel's fight is with Iran's leadership. specifically, not the Iranian people.
An important distinction to draw, rhetorically.
And he listed targets, hit military sites, nuclear sites, and then that very direct quote attributed to him, "More is on the way."
Very blunt. He was also reported claiming the Iranian regime was, well, caught off guard, didn't know what hit them, wouldn't know what's coming next.
And claiming the regime has never been weaker.
Right. And then he made that notable direct appeal to the Iranian people themselves.
Yeah, calling on them to stand up, let their voices be heard, unite around their flag, their history, stand up for freedom from the evil and oppressive regime, as he put it.
It's quite a message. He reiterated Israel's main objective, again, thwarting Iran's nuclear and missile threat.
And he connected that directly to the Iranian people, didn't he? Saying, achieving Israel's objective clears the path for their freedom.
Exactly. Linking Israel's military goals to the aspirations he attributes to the Iranian populace. And this seems consistent with an earlier statement mentioned.
Right, where the objective was defined as to thwart the Islamic regime's nuclear and ballistic missile threat to us. Pretty consistent messaging reported there.
Now, stepping back slightly, the sources also touched on the U.S. involvement and reactions. That's always a key factor.
Always. Reuters, citing U.S. officials, reported the U.S. military actually helped shoot down some of those Iranian missiles heading towards Israel.
Direct involvement reported there. And then you have U.S. President Donald Trump mentioned.
Yeah, urging Iran to make a deal on its nuclear program, but also warning about potentially even more brutal Israeli attacks to come.
Kind of a carrot and stick approach reported there. And conversely, Iran was reported accusing the U.S. of supporting Israel's strikes.
Which the U.S. denied, according to the reports.
Yes, the denial was noted.
Okay, so finally, the material also covers some of the defensive actions and the immediate outcomes on the ground in Israel.
Right. Israel's Home Front Command apparently issued instructions, easing some restrictions slightly, letting residents leave protected areas but telling them to stay nearby.
A slight easing, but still high alert, clearly.
Absolutely. And then we saw descriptions of images, apparently showing Israel's missile defense system, the Iron Dome, in action.
Trying to intercept those ballistic missiles over Tel Aviv.
That's what the descriptions suggest. Bright flashes, streaks of light, trails in the sky, the system visibly engaging.
But, tragically, not everything was intercepted. The sources also included images showing actual damage on the ground in Tel Aviv from the Iranian strikes.
Yes, that's also reported. A sobering reminder of the impact.
So if we look at everything in this material, we've really seen this intense cycle, haven't we? Strikes, retaliation.
Definitely. And we've unpacked the stated reasons behind these actions as presented in the sources, looked at the reported impacts, the different accounts.
The external involvement noted, like with the U.S.
It's clear from these sources there are multiple layers here. You have the military actions themselves, obviously.
Right, but also these powerful political statements aimed internally and externally. Leadership versus people.
Exactly. And the role of other global players, plus the analysis that tries to make sense of where this whole conflict might be heading.
Okay, so based only on what we've discussed from these sources, considering these, well, conflicting claims we've seen reported weakening the opponent versus demonstrating a powerful capability to strike back.
And considering the very specific, very high-stakes objectives stated by both sides,
what did these reported events suggest to you, just based on this material, about the potential path forward? Where could this escalating situation be going?